Welcome to Tactical Reviews for a look at the Torino from Sandrin knives, a knife which uses a very different blade material. Sandrin knives are a sister company to an industrial tungsten carbide manufacturing business, and they have developed a new tungsten carbide formulation that is far less brittle, much more resilient and much more suitable for use in a knife, and that's what they have fitted the Torino with, a tungsten carbide blade. The Torino model comes in a few different versions. This is the less expensive polymer handled version. It's a recoil lock folder, so on the back of the knife you draw back the lock. Apart from that, relatively standard pocket clip can be changed from one side to the other, dual-sided thumb stud, but then we have that very slim looking blade because this is one solid piece of tungsten carbide. Let's go right in. So coming right in very close on this Torino, and you can see on the blade a kind of scratch pattern which almost gives it a semi-used look, but having spoken with the Sandrin knives makers, the finish on this material is very difficult to get uniform because it's so hard, and for that reason they've come up with this type of brushed finish for the main portion of the blade. And you can see the edge bevel that's been, well, the small primary grind because it's so flat, and the edge bevel. So we've got some jimping on the back of the blade for grip. And onto the sort of almost reverse skeletonized handle. With a little bit of extra grip if you take a reverse hold on it. Let's look at that recoil lock action. And the blade is very smooth when unlocked. It's actually on bearings. You should just see that. Just have a little look at general handling. Very smooth sweep on those bearings. And if one were inclined to flick, once it's over that initial resistance, it's a very smooth movement. And a very generous forward grip position, so you can really choke up on that blade. And let's move on to the detailed technical measurements. And now we're going to take a look at the detailed technical measurements for the Sandrin knives Torino. So no sheath, this is all that was provided. So 66.6 grams. So the folded length is 102 millimeters. The widest point when folded, so that's 29.7 millimeters. And we're going to include the pocket clip here. You could change its side, but let's go with the widest measurement with the pocket clip, which is 14.8 millimeters. Overall length is 177 millimeters. Blade length 75 millimeters. So handle thickness, but not including the clip. This may be the pivot becomes the widest, which is 11.1 millimeters, and the maximum handle depth with the blade open is 25.9 millimeters. Find the balance point. Which is 93 millimeters from the tip. Here we'll see one of the traits of the tungsten carbide blade, the blade thickness, which is 1.2 millimeters. Okay, grind here. So this blade is so thin, it has a very small primary grind, and it may be too small for me to properly tell. I suspect looks flat, could be slightly hollow. At this scale, difficult to tell. If I look at reflections, I would say that's a hollow grind. Grind length is relatively tiny compared to the blade depth, but so it's 3.5 millimeters at the point where the blade is 23 millimeters deep. So whether this is slightly hollow or flat, I'm still going to take a measurement of the primary bevel angle. So despite the thin blade, this could be relatively surprising by the look of it. There we are. So even though the blade is incredibly thin, this is our primary bevel angle, which is, oh no, that's 17 degrees 30 minutes. Use the laser edge bevel protractor to check the angle of the actual cutting edge, and that is 19 degrees per side. Beautifully precise. Point angle. Is 72 degrees. Thickness behind the edge. Ooh. 0.43 millimeters. I'm going to say rake is 0. And then onto the factory sharpness, which is a bit more critical with the tungsten carbide, very high hardness blade, and not sure how easy this is to sharpen yourself. So the factory edge sharpness, center 167 grams. The heel 166 grams. And the tip 163 grams. Thank you for joining me, and remember, get informed, be prepared, stay sharp.